My boyfriend Liam had a stepsister, Sophie. They weren't related by blood. When she was diagnosed with a serious illness, he begged me to sell one of the apartments I'd just received from a recent property demolition settlement to pay for her treatment. Chloe, it's a matter of life and death. Can't you just help her this once? His words didn't move me in the slightest. The image of him sneaking a kiss with this so-called sister just moments before flashed in my mind, filling me with nothing but revulsion. The demolition settlement had left me with 5 apartments. Shortly after, Liam, my boyfriend, gave up a guaranteed postgraduate placement at the country's top university, Manhwa, to take a job in our hometown. He claimed he couldn't stand the long distance anymore. Tonight was supposed to be the first night we lived together. The door had barely clicked shut when Liam pinned my wrists, his lips tracing a path from my earlobe downwards. But amidst the haze of sensation, a conversation from a few days ago with my best friend Maya echoed in my mind. She'd asked if I remembered Sophie, Liam's stepsister. I heard she was diagnosed with something serious recently, Maya had said, her voice laced with concern. The treatment costs must be astronomical. Then more pointedly, you two were long distance for 3 years, Chloe. He never once mentioned moving back here until after your family's property settlement came through? Giving up Manhwa for this. It feels. I couldn't shake the unease. As his hand settled on my waist, I pulled back slightly. Liam. Why did you really give up the postgraduate program? Liam stiffened almost imperceptibly. He met my eyes, his gaze steady. Chloe, I'm not after your money, he stated, each word deliberate. Then what about Sophie? What does she have to do with anything? His voice dropped, laced with annoyance. Looking into his suddenly shadowed eyes, a deeper anxiety stirred within me. I remembered a time I'd secretly flown to Beijing to surprise him. Instead of a happy reunion, I'd found Sophie clinging to him outside his dorm building. You're only with her to make me jealous, aren't you? She'd accused him tearfully. Of course not, Liam had replied instantly, pushing her away firmly. What makes you think you can even compare to her? I had been stunned back then, shocked that Sophie harbored those kinds of feelings for him. But Liam's rejection had seemed so decisive, so final. Chloe, Liam murmured now, pulling me closer, trying to steer the conversation back with undeniable physical presence. We've been apart for so long. You've missed me too, haven't you? His voice was a low caress against my ear, intimate and suggestive in a way it had never been before. He had always been reserved physically. In our 3 years together, we'd never crossed that final line. He used to say with earnest conviction that some things were only for after marriage. A shiver ran through me, a confusing mix of desire and suspicion. Just as the atmosphere began to heat up again, the question slipped out before I could stop it. How much does Sophie's surgery cost? Liam's expression tightened instantly. Chloe, I told you, I'm not after your money. He took a breath, composing himself. I gave up the placement because I negotiated a major project with a company here. They offered me 5% equity. Once the project is stable, I plan to continue my studies. He looked down at me, his face and tone radiating sincerity. But one thing was glaringly obvious. He was deliberately, painstakingly avoiding any real discussion about Sophie. I opened my mouth to press further, but his lips descended on mine, silencing me. It feels so good, he murmured against my mouth. Knowing all of your firsts belong to me. His soft chuckle brought a flush to my cheeks. I retorted playfully. Isn't it the same for you? Liam froze. A distinct, unmistakable pause hung in the air before his phone chose that exact moment to ring, shattering the fragile intimacy. It was Sophie. The moment he answered, her hysterical sobs filled the room. Liam, it hurts so much. Am I going to die? Please, can you come? Come stay with me. Liam ended the call abruptly. The warm glow from the bedside lamp cast long shadows from his lowered lashes. His sudden stillness sent a chill through me. Are you going to the hospital? I asked tentatively. He pulled me fiercely into his arms, pressing a kiss to the crown of my head. No, I'm staying right here with you. Go to sleep. Sometime in the dead of night, a fierce thunderstorm broke. Startled awake by a loud clap of thunder, I instinctively reached for Liam. The space beside me was empty. Panic flared. I searched the bedroom, then the entire apartment. He wasn't there. Liam was gone. I spent the rest of the night huddled on the sofa, numbly calling his phone again and again. It rang endlessly unanswered. My anxiety morphed into a frantic, clawing desperation. On the 10th try, the call connected for a single ring before being abruptly disconnected from his end. I woke up on the sofa as dawn painted the sky in shades of gray. A thin blanket was draped over me. The sound of running water trickled from the master bathroom. Liam must have returned while I slept. He was showering. My legs felt unsteady as I walked towards the bedroom. I needed an explanation. The bathroom light was on, the door slightly ajar. Through the gap, I saw a profile that wasn't Liam's, bending over the bed. It was Sophie. She was meticulously folding the clothes Liam had just taken off. His blue tie, white shirt, black trousers, handled with an unnerving familiarity. And then, without the slightest hesitation, she picked up his most private item, his navy blue boxer shorts. Her movements were fluid, practiced, as if she'd performed this intimate chore countless times. "Sophie, can you grab my clothes?" Liam called out from the shower. Without missing a beat, Sophie went to the closet, pulled out a fresh pair of boxers, and passed them through the crack in the bathroom door. Liam took them just as naturally. The scene rooted me to the spot. I was so stunned, I didn't even notice Sophie walking towards me until she spoke. "Sleep well on the sofa?" Her voice dripped with false sweetness. "So sorry about that. My brother was going to carry you to bed, but I suddenly felt unwell, you see. He was so worried about me, he just had to." She paused dramatically, then let out a soft "sk." "I have to say, his bed really is quite comfortable." "Cut the act," I interrupted, my voice cold. "Liam will explain things to me. I don't need your embellishments." Even as I said it, the image of her folding his underwear, the easy intimacy of their exchange, replayed in my mind. This wasn't sibling affection. It felt disturbingly like the casual closeness of lovers. "Handling his personal laundry is a girlfriend's job," I added sharply. "You don't need to trouble yourself, sister." "Girlfriend?" Sophie scoffed, looking me up and down with blatant disdain. "You can't possibly think Liam genuinely likes you, do you?" She leaned in slightly. "I heard you had a crush on him for years before you got together?" I stared at her, utterly floored. How could she possibly know that? It was a secret I'd guarded carefully. In high school, Liam had been the unattainable star, handsome, brilliant, aloof. We'd been desk partners, and I'd quietly adored him for years, never daring to confess. It wasn't until a reunion during our freshman year of college that he'd suddenly, unexpectedly, asked me out. It felt like a dream come true. I remembered hearing that his father had remarried around that same time. "Liam told me, of course," Sophie said, clearly seeing the question in my eyes, her smile triumphant. I felt rooted to the spot, a wave of humiliation washing over me. Sophie wasn't finished. Her voice turned haughty. "He was willing to give up his place at Tsinghua just to raise money for my surgery. Girlfriend? Please, do you really think you compare to me in his heart?" She smirked. "Then again, he's never even touched you, has he? What kind of girlfriend is that?" Her eyes glittered maliciously. "Do you know what he and I—" Enough. I couldn't bear to hear any more. I turned to leave. Sophie grabbed my arm, stopping me. "What's wrong?" Scared to hear the truth. I wrenched my arm away forcefully. A pained grunt sounded behind me. Sophie stumbled back, falling heavily to the floor. Her long hair splayed across her face, her lips suddenly pale. And at that exact moment, Liam emerged from the bathroom, toweling his hair. He saw Sophie sprawled on the floor, then looked at me. The warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by an icy chill. He strode over, grabbing my arm, his grip bruising. "She's sick, Chloe. What is wrong with you? Why are you picking on her?" He seemed oblivious to the pain he was inflicting, his face tight with anger. "Liam!" Sophie whimpered from the floor. Liam instantly released me, rushing to her side. I stumbled back, clutching my aching arm, watching in stunned silence as he gently scooped Sophie into his arms and hurried out of the bedroom without a backward glance. Liam didn't come back all day. Late that evening, I heard that Sophie had suddenly started vomiting blood and had been rushed to the emergency room. When I arrived at the hospital, Liam was standing rigidly outside the operating room. Nearby, Sophie's mother was weeping into her hands. "Liam," I called out. He didn't move, didn't even seem to hear me. A few minutes later, the operating room doors burst open, and a nurse hurried out. "We've run out of the reserve blood supply. Is anyone here type B?" Sophie's mother nearly fainted. "Neither of us is type B." Liam finally turned, his eyes fixing on me. Chloe, you're type B. I have severe anemia, Liam. Have you forgotten? I asked quietly. It was true. My doctor had explicitly warned me against donating blood, due to the risk of complications like heart attack or stroke. Liam knew this. I remembered when he first found out about my condition, his concerned voice, asking, "Why didn't you tell me your anemia was so serious?" He'd held me close then, murmuring, "Chloe, I promise I'll get to know every part of you slowly, bit by bit." His guilt and tenderness had felt so real at that moment. Now, faced with my reminder, there wasn't a flicker of guilt in his eyes, only growing impatience. "Chloe, you need to understand the priorities here." "I won't risk my life," I stated firmly. "She wouldn't have had this sudden attack if you hadn't pushed her this morning," he accused, his voice sharp with blame. "That's because she—" "Chloe," he cut me off coldly. "People need to take responsibility for their actions." Looking at his calm, almost detached face, I felt a surge of despair that overshadowed my anger. Just as the tension reached a breaking point, another nurse rushed over, announcing they'd found another unit of blood in the bank. The operating room light switched back on. We didn't exchange another word until the surgery was over. When the doctor finally emerged and confirmed Sophie was stable, I turned and walked away. Back at Liam's apartment, it certainly didn't feel like our apartment anymore. I started packing my things. One of my newly acquired apartments was already furnished. I'd move there. I arranged for movers, setting a time for the following afternoon. Exhausted, I finally sat down late into the night. Suddenly my phone buzzed. A friend request from Sophie. The message attached read, "Let me tell you something." Hesitantly, I accepted. A message popped up instantly. "That fall? I did it on purpose." Before I could even react, she retracted the message. Another message followed immediately. "With your IQ, I bet you didn't even get a screenshot, did you?" I had to admit, in that moment I felt truly disgusted by her. Risking your own life just to gamble for a man's pity? I typed back furiously. "Your IQ really is something special. At least 25, maybe." I blocked her immediately after sending it. But the bitter taste of anger lingered. I'd always assumed Sophie's obsession was one-sided, given how dismissive Liam seemed towards her. But now, Sophie's unwavering confidence, her possessiveness when confronting me, where did that come from? Did Liam really only see her as a sister? My phone rang again. "Liam." I stared at the screen, letting it ring until it stopped. He didn't call back. Much later, I heard the electronic lock beep, and Liam walked in. He looked uncomfortable, tugging at his tie, unbuttoning the top button of his shirt. "Why didn't you answer my calls?" I ignored him. "I'll sleep on the sofa tonight. I'm moving out first thing tomorrow." "Are you still angry?" he asked, approaching me. "Your precious sister is lying in a hospital bed. You don't need to worry about whether a stranger is angry or not," I retorted coolly. "You need to get your priorities straight." Liam's face tightened. He clearly remembered me throwing his words back at him. "What happened earlier?" "I was wrong. I shouldn't have asked you to donate blood." He paused. "It was an emergency, Chloe. Life and death. I thought you'd understand." I let out a cold laugh. "If my friend were sick and you had severe anemia, and I insisted you donate blood for him, would you understand?" "Chloe, can't we just talk about this properly?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. "Sophie is my sister, not just some random friend." "Sister? Do you really truly only see her as a sister?" The words tumbled out. "Last night she called you crying. You promised me you wouldn't go, but you snuck out the moment I fell asleep. Why? And why did you bring her back here?" My voice rose slightly. "She told me you told her about my secret crush on you. She said that you too." I couldn't finish the sentence. The thought was too repulsive. "If you didn't actually like me, Liam, why did you ask me out in the first place?" A suspicion, ugly and insistent, had been growing in my mind. Maybe he'd been lying from the start. Maybe I was just a convenient placeholder, a socially acceptable front for feelings he couldn't publicly acknowledge. After a heavy silence, I said quietly, "Let's break up." "I don't agree." Liam's gaze was intense. "Chloe, when I asked you out, I genuinely wanted to be with you." He sighed heavily. "After Sophie's mom and my dad divorced, things were really tough for them. We were family once. And then she got sick. I couldn't just ignore her." He lit a cigarette, the action lending him a somber air. Last night after you were asleep her mom called again. Said Sophie was threatening to jump off the roof. I had no choice, I had to go. He took a long drag. She insisted on coming back with me. Her mom begged me to just go along with her whims for a few days, at least until after the surgery. That's the only reason I agreed. The cigarette burned close to his fingers unnoticed. And about the crush. I never told her. I have no idea how she found out. Maybe she went through our old chat logs last night when she was here. He looked directly at me, his voice low and earnest. Chloe, nothing has ever happened between Sophie and me. Please believe me. It took me a long moment to respond. Regardless of your relationship, Liam, I can't pretend none of this happened. My voice was steady though tears pricked my eyes. Why do you assume I should just accept your apology immediately, and then endlessly tolerate this never-ending drama between you two? Is it because you know I love you more? Because you're sure I won't leave? For years I chased his shadow, pushing myself academically just so he might notice me, remember my name. I knew deep down that his feelings for me never matched the depth of mine for him. But so what? I could accept loving him more, but I couldn't accept his lack of principles, his spineless inability to set boundaries when it came to her. Maybe we're just not right for each other, I said finally, wiping away a tear and forcing myself to look away. Chloe, Liam started to say something but his phone rang again. He glanced at the caller ID. It's the hospital. She's had another relapse. Needs surgery immediately. Her mom isn't there right now. They need another guardian to sign the consent forms. He hesitated, then grabbed his jacket. I'll be back soon. I slept fitfully that night, plagued by dreams. One moment I was back at the college reunion. Liam leaning in, smiling faintly, asking if he could kiss me. The scene shifted, and I saw Sophie running away crying after Liam rejected her outside his dorm, while Liam stared after her, lost in thought, completely unaware of my presence nearby. I woke up feeling groggy, my head heavy, nose stuffy. I definitely caught a cold from sleeping on the sofa. Liam hadn't come back all night. I rescheduled the movers for the afternoon and took a taxi to the hospital for an 4 drip. Trying to juggle the 4 pole on my way to the restroom, I nearly dropped it. A nurse kindly steadied it for me. All by yourself? She asked gently, noticing my struggle. I nodded numbly. With a cold this bad, it's tough managing alone. She brought me a cup of warm water later. Just call if you need anything else. 3 hours later, the drip finished. As I waited for the elevator downstairs, a notification popped up on my phone. A bank transaction alert. It was for the joint account Liam and I had opened back in our 3rd year of university, our designated wedding fund. I'd recently rented out one of my apartments and had given the tenant that account number for the deposit and first month's rent. The tenant had transferred $300,000 just last night. Now the alert showed the current balance. 0. A chilling realization washed over me. I went straight up to the floor where Sophie's room was located. What I saw through the slightly ajar door of her private room remains the most disgusting image burned into my memory. Liam was leaning over the bed, his lips pressed gently against Sophie's. She appeared to be asleep or perhaps sedated. He was being careful, clearly trying not to wake her. Just as he started to pull away, a hand snaked up and clasped the back of his neck. Sophie's eyes fluttered open, and she pulled him back down, returning the kiss fervently. Then I watched in horror as Liam deepened the kiss, pulling her up so she was straddling his lap, his hand tangling in her hair. The sight sent a wave of nausea through me. My head spun, the world tilting. I stumbled, nearly falling, but strong hands caught me. Careful, a low, calm voice said from above. I slowly regained my footing, mumbling a delayed thank you. Though quiet, my voice carried into the room. Liam froze instantly, shoving Sophie away almost violently. When he turned to face me, pure panic and desperation were stark in his eyes. Chloe, he stammered, stumbling towards me, reaching for my hand. Crack. The sound echoed in the quiet hallway as my palm connected sharply with his cheek. Don't touch me, I spat, scrubbing furiously at the hand he'd almost grasped, my voice filled with utter loathing. You make me sick. The color drained from his face, leaving it deathly pale. I took a deep breath, fighting to keep my voice level. Where's the money from the account? Chloe, wait, you misunderstand, he pleaded desperately. I never intended to touch our wedding fund. Misunderstand? You didn't take the money. I did, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Sophie needed the surgery urgently. Enough. Even though I'd expected it, hearing him confess still felt like a physical blow, surreal and devastating. I remembered him suddenly depositing $200,000 into that account a while back, calling it a contribution to our future. So, when I signed the rental agreement, I hadn't thought twice about using that account for the $300,000 rent payment. Now the entire $500,000 was gone, taken without a word, used for Sophie. A sickening thought occurred to me. Had that $200,000 deposit been a calculated move? A way to make me lower my guard, setting me up for this bigger withdrawal? Why did you suddenly deposit that $200,000 into the account back then? I demanded, staring hard at him. Liam flinched as if struck again, understanding dawning in his eyes, followed by a flicker of hurt. When I signed with the company, they offered two options: a $200,000 signing bonus, or 5% equity after project completion. I took the bonus. He paused, his voice strained. Chloe, I'm not a con artist. I looked at him, speechless. I don't care how you handle your own money, but my $300,000? I want it back. Immediately. Or I'm calling the police. Hey, have you got no compassion? Sophie hobbled over, leaning on her forestand, looking indignant. It's not like we won't pay you back. Why are you being such a harpy about it? Ignoring her completely, I pulled out my phone and started dialing 110. Just as my finger hovered over the last digit, smack, Liam knocked the phone out of my hand. It clattered to the floor. Chloe. He stared at his own hand, horrified. I picked up the phone, relieved to see it wasn't damaged. Liam's voice was raw, hoarse. I know nothing I say matters now, but I honestly didn't mean to take that money without asking. His words tumbled out in a rush. I got to the hospital last night and found out the money Sophie's mom had saved for the surgery had been stolen by scammers. Her mom was taken to the police station to give a statement. He looked utterly defeated. We waited all night for news from the police, but the surgery couldn't wait any longer. So you decided to act first and ask later, taking my money? I was afraid you wouldn't agree. You hate Sophie so much. I hate you more. I cut him off, a bitter laugh escaping me. Since you two are obviously so deeply in love, and not actually related, why don't you just get together and leave me out of it? Why drag me into your messed up drama? It's not like that, Liam whispered, his lips trembling. I never planned to be with her. I feel sorry for her. At those words, Sophie's face went sheet white, her eyes wide with disbelief. And kissing someone is your way of showing pity? I challenged. Liam looked bewildered, confused. I don't know what came over me. Thinking about her surgery, the 50% success rate. He trailed off. Chloe, what happened just now? It was an accident. His explanations grew weaker, more desperate. Looking at his familiar yet suddenly alien face, I felt bile rise in my throat. A cup of water appeared beside me. I took it gratefully, gulping it down, trying to quell the nausea. I looked up to see it was the young doctor who had steadied me earlier. Excuse me, the doctor said, adjusting his glasses, his expression unreadable. I couldn't help but overhear. He looked directly at Liam, his tone deceptively mild, yet with an underlying edge of disapproval. If kissing her just now was an accident, what about last night? Liam's gaze darkened instantly, fixing on the doctor with hostility. The doctor seemed unfazed, a hint of distaste crossing his features. I was on duty last night, walking past this floor. Happened to see you holding this young lady, he gestured towards Sophie, comforting her, I suppose. But somehow that comforting turned into, well, your lips seemed to find each other then too. He paused, raising an eyebrow. Are your mouths magnetic? Some kind of built-in attraction feature? Liam's face turned ashen. After a long tense silence, Liam finally spoke, his voice devoid of emotion. Within 2 days, if the money Sophie's mom was scammed out of isn't recovered, I will personally repay you the $300,000. Why should I believe you? Liam took out his phone. I'll start raising the money right now. His desperation didn't move me. I sent him the account number for one of my private bank accounts. Transfer the money to this account as soon as possible. His fingers trembled slightly as he held the phone. Okay. For the next few hours, I watched Liam systematically call almost everyone in his contact list. He who had always been so proud, held his head high, rarely asking anyone for anything, especially not for money. 300,000 wasn't a small sum. He managed to scrape together just over 50,000, facing veiled sarcasm and outright mockery along the way. I observed calmly, feeling nothing. Sophie, however, was beside herself. She kept trying to snatch the phone away from him. "Liam, stop it. Don't do this. She's doing this on purpose. She just wants to humiliate you." Tears streamed down her face as she desperately tried to think of a solution. "That company, didn't they promise you 5% equity? Just ask them to give you 300,000 instead." Her words hung in the air. Silence fell. Sophie looked expectantly at Liam, clearly proud of her brilliant idea. Liam looked at her with a strange, unreadable expression. Frankly, it was a terrible idea. Anyone could see that the long-term value of 5% equity, especially if the company went public, could potentially be worth millions. Far more than 300,000. Was Sophie really that naive? Just as I expected Liam to make an excuse or try to borrow more, or even beg me for more time. He agreed. "That is the fastest way," he stated flatly. He looked at me then, his expression a complex mix of emotions. He opened his mouth as if to say something more, but closed it again. I felt a flicker of surprise, but it passed quickly. Maybe it was an impulsive decision, or maybe he was trying desperately to prove he wasn't after my money. It didn't matter to me anymore. Liam's negotiation with his company went surprisingly smoothly. Knowing his urgent need for cash, they readily agreed to buy out his potential equity for 500,000. That evening, while eating wonton soup at a small restaurant near the hospital, I received a transfer notification. 300,000. The exact amount. Below the notification, 2 stark words. "I'm sorry. After I moved into my new apartment, a long time passed without seeing Liam. Not that he didn't try. He showed up outside my office building one day, standing there from morning till night. Passers-by and the security guard stared. So I called the police. When Maya heard, she teased me mercilessly. He only stood there for one day. I swear, you were just annoyed you didn't get him arrested the last time and..." I silenced her with a segment of orange. "Of course not," I replied calmly, peeling another piece. "Isn't cutting off all possibility from the start far more effective than enduring days of harassment before taking action? A wealthy woman never admits to seeking revenge." Nearly a year flew by. During the October national holiday, Maya and I went on a trip to relax. While soaking in a hot spring, she casually mentioned, "Sophie's illness relapsed again." "Oh," I responded neutrally. Maya stretched languidly. "She's a bottomless pit. Liam's going to ruin himself eventually, trying to keep up with her medical bills." I closed my eyes, enjoying the warm water, saying nothing. Whatever happened between those two had absolutely nothing to do with me anymore. Back at the hotel, I received a text from an unknown number. "You have 5 apartments. Can you sell one to pay for her treatment?" Before I could even process it, another text arrived. "Chloe, it's a matter of life and death. Please help her." I immediately blocked the number, baffled. The tone sounded like Liam, pleading and desperate. But the sheer audacity, the lack of awareness, that felt more like Sophie. The brief interruption didn't spoil my vacation. I fully immersed myself in the trip. Coincidentally, I ran into a colleague, David Zhang. He had transferred from headquarters about 6 months prior and worked on the same project as me. He was meticulous professionally, yet gentle and polite in person. Many younger women in the office harbored crushes on him. To my surprise, he knew the Yunnan region quite well and guided Maya and me to many hidden gems. By the end of the trip, Maya was thoroughly impressed. "He's a good one, Chloe," she whispered, conspiratorially more than once. "You should give him a chance." When I didn't respond, she tickled me. "Don't play dumb. You can't tell me you haven't noticed he's interested in you." I laughed, dodging her playful attacks, my eyes unintentionally drifting towards David. He stood near the shoreline, his gaze clear and steady as it met mine, holding an undefinable warmth. After 5 days, our trip ended. Concerned about 2 women traveling home alone late at night, David insisted on driving us. He dropped Maya off first, then drove me to my apartment building. Unexpectedly, Liam was there, leaning against my car, a cigarette glowing between his fingers. The stark white light of the street lamp cast long shadows, making him look strangely solitary. He had lost a lot of weight in the past year. His gaze, deep and intense, locked onto us as we got out of David's car. David smiled thoughtfully, his eyes kind. You two talk. Call me if you need anything. He walked a short distance towards the complex entrance, giving us space but remaining within sight. After a moment, Liam spoke, his voice rough. Who is he? I ignored the question. Are you here about those text messages? I asked coolly. Yes. Liam took a step closer, looking slightly flustered. I didn't send them. Please don't misunderstand. It was Sophie, wasn't it? I stated, unsurprised. Liam was silent for a beat, then nodded. Her illness relapsed twice this past year. Her mother couldn't cope anymore. Decided to stop treatment and take her back to their hometown. Sophie refused, had a massive argument, hit her head. Now she drifts in and out of clarity. I looked at him impassively. Chloe, I've done a lot of thinking this past year, he continued, his voice low. Back then, Sophie was still technically my sister. I had these confusing feelings for her. Before I could figure out if it was love, my own sense of morality made me instinctively run from it. He met my eyes earnestly. After I got together with you, my focus shifted. I grew used to our quiet kisses at the train station, watching you run to hug me outside my dorm. I genuinely started enjoying just being with you. After my dad and her mom divorced, Sophie confessed her feelings, but by then, I felt nothing for her in that way. I didn't want to break up with you. His voice grew thick with emotion. Then she got sick. Maybe it was pity, maybe some lingering sense of obligation. I don't know. I kissed her twice. That's all. Nothing else ever happened between us. Chloe, I love you. His throat worked, the corners of his eyes reddening. I'm so sorry it took me this long to say it. I listened calmly, feeling no echo of my past emotions. Is there anything else? If not, please leave. Liam didn't move. Chloe, I want to see you, he pleaded, his gaze locked on mine. It's been a year. I've missed you so much. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. I think you'd prefer seeing the police less. I'd barely pressed the one when Liam shouted my name. Chloe. Suddenly, darkness enveloped me as a cold body slammed into mine, pulling me down. We crashed to the ground, Liam letting out a sharp grunt beneath me. A distinct crack sounded nearby. I turned my head sharply. A small terracotta pot lay shattered on the pavement beside us, soil spilling out. It must have been blown off a balcony by a sudden gust of wind. Are you all right? David rushed over, helping me up from on top of Liam. He examined my arm anxiously where a shard of pottery had grazed my skin. There's a convenience store just over there. I'll get some band-aids. After David hurried off, Liam slowly pushed himself up. In the moonlight, a trickle of blood ran from a cut on his forehead down his cheek. His elbow was scraped raw from breaking our fall. He seemed oblivious to his injuries. He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out a single band-aid, holding it out to me carefully. Chloe. Seeing the small bandage in his outstretched hand, I felt a flicker of memory. Sophomore year, late-night cleaning duty in the science building. I'd tripped carrying a heavy bucket of water on the stairs, skinning my knee badly. My recent mock exam scores had been disappointing, and the fall pushed me over the edge. I sat there crying, clutching my bleeding knee. Suddenly, Liam's cool voice sounded beside me. What are you crying about? We barely knew each other then, so I mumbled nothing. When he walked away, I looked up and found a single band-aid sitting neatly beside me. After we started dating, I told him about that incident. He'd smiled then, resting his chin on my shoulder, murmuring, So that's why my wife fell for me. I guess I should carry band-aids more often. It was clearly a throwaway comment. He'd looked blank when I mentioned it again later. Yet now, after everything, after we were over, he carried one. Chloe. David's voice brought me back to the present. He held out the packet of band-aids he'd just bought. I took one from him, then met Liam's gaze steadily. Thank you, I said quietly, my voice firm. But I don't need it anymore. I watched his face slowly drain of color. I sighed softly, but my resolve was absolute. I loved you once, Liam. I don't deny that. Past. But I don't love you anymore. I gestured towards the band-aid still in his hand. I don't need that, and I don't need you. That night, wanting to make the rejection final and absolute, I discreetly sent David a text, asking him to walk upstairs with me in front of Liam. We both understood it was just for show. We ended up spending a couple of hours talking quietly in the building's ground floor visitor lounge. David was looking through a book, his long fingers turning the pages rhythmically. He suddenly chuckled softly. Well, it's perfectly clear now. You have absolutely zero romantic interest in me. I studied his expression, relieved to find only amusement, no resentment. How can you tell? Because if you had even the slightest feeling for me, he explained, looking up, a slight curve to his lips, you wouldn't use me as a prop to make your ex jealous by asking me upstairs. Liking someone, it should be genuine, straightforward, not part of a strategy. I'm sorry, David. I really only see you as a colleague. Understood. Good colleague it is, David accepted easily. He watched me for a long moment, then lowered his gaze, a gentle smile playing on his lips. I have to go now. Good night, Chloe. Later I realized, I have to go meant he was being transferred back to the headquarters in Beijing. Liam apparently returned to Beijing too. Sophie occasionally sent nonsensical texts, always about money, but then one day they stopped altogether. Life moved on. My family introduced me to someone, a doctor. When we met for our blind date, we both froze for a second, then burst out laughing. His name was Alex Chun. We had met before. He was the doctor in the hospital hallway who had witnessed the kissing incident and cleverly called Liam out on it. His sarcastic question, "Are your mouths magnetic?" was still vivid in my memory. 2 years later, Alex and I got married. On my wedding day, 2 anonymous envelopes arrived, both postmarked from Beijing. One contained a substantial sum of money. On the enclosed note in familiar handwriting were 3 words, Chloe, happy wedding, Liam. The other envelope held a faded high school graduation photo. A name was circled in pen, David Lee. A tall, slender boy with sharp eyes, bearing a striking resemblance to the David Zhang I knew. In the photo, his lips were pressed together, his gaze not directed at the camera, but fixed intently on someone in the lower right corner. On a younger version of me, David Lee, David Zhang. It all clicked into place. All those years I spent looking up at Liam, someone else had been quietly looking at me. Lost in thought, I heard my husband's gentle voice. Honey, come join me for the toast. I slowly looked up. The sun was bright. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Alex stood tall and handsome, turning towards me as he felt my gaze, his eyes crinkling with laughter. Instinctively I smiled back. In the vastness of the world, suffering, heartache, and unrequited love touch everyone. But those things pass. Right now I was walking steadily, confidently towards my own future. Coming. End of story.